Mhm.
You have to be able to read your own writing.
I know.
There you go.
I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. That used to be my thing.
Over there.
Over there, yeah, that was TPC too. I just always get stuck by the heat.
It was a loud one.
Yeah.
So Michael. Good evening.
Need a pen? I just had it. It's here.
Probably.
Oh, I see where it is. Hello. Always learn. You learn for years.
It is 4:45 Apple time. On Thursday, October 26th, 2023. I'm going to call this a special town board meeting The town will appoint to order. Roll call Mike Anderson.
Here.
Amy Baxter.
Here.
Susan Brenna.
Here.
Samantha Dobson.
Here.
And Glenn Carlson here. Also our town clerk and our town administrator and our public works director and our internal accounting administrator are all in attendance. Thank you. The next item is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to budget workshop. First item is the 2024 fee schedule. And I think the way I'd like to propose that we do this is to just, everyone has the new schedule, first of all, right? The one that was updated the 24th, 10/24/23. Don't look like
I
yours
don't.
is. There was a new one that was distributed,
The only difference was the zoning,
the zoning ones.
the other big difference.
So that's the zoning page. Well, I'll start on the fee schedule.
Okay.
The increase in the annual renewal to $350 a unit doubles the current fee, which I think is a bit much for folks.
Where you at now?
The short-term rentals under zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, we're right now at 175 for renewal per unit. This would double it.
Okay.
Last year it went from 150 to 175. I certainly think we should increase it. But I would like to see it more in the neighborhood of 275 to 300. I just don't, the optics of doubling it. Everyone will be like, they doubled it. Well, if you go from 175 to 275, that's not double, or 300 even. I just think the optics of doubling the fee is a bit much, but that's my opinion. How do the rest of you feel?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yeah, I agree.
Mike?
I agree. But I have some other issues, but I'll let you go.
I agree too.
Thanks, Sue. The second thing is, right now the fee is just for the season. So people have to get a new permit, right, every May 14th for the,
What's for a year?
it goes from May 14th to May 13th
Correct.
of the following year. Okay.
As an annual.
It is an annual, okay. I have talked to some people in the rental pool business, and for them, June 14th would be a whole lot better, especially if we're able to go with, if it's 1 year, they actually maybe started to rent it by June 14th. Their prior year's permit will then carry them over. They might actually have some cash to pay the increased fee. How do people feel about that?
So everybody, doesn't matter when you're gonna rent, would they all be at the same date?
Unless you're a new renter.
Unless it's new,
Then
If
you
you're
have to get one
renewing.
before you rent.
Well, no, the permit only runs 1 year. So whether you started at May 14th, June 15th, whatever, it would
Got it.
remain an annual permit. And I don't want to speak for the TPC, but the members who have studied this the most have no problem with changing the date. As long as people have a permit when they are renting,
Mhm.
it's fine with at least the more studied members of the TPC.
Okay,
So the rental agreement is for 1 year. So if you rent it in October 5th, it goes till October 5th.
No,
Okay.
permit is a calendar year, and so if we started it June 15th to the following June 14th, it would be fine. In my understanding of where the TPC is, they wouldn't have a problem with that,
okay,
as long as someone has a permit when they are renting. So a new person would have to get a permit, whether they started renting in April, May, or June.
right,
But if they had a permit from the previous year, they could continue to rent early in the season as long as they had that permit and then they would have to
Renew it.
for the following year.
By June
Following
14th, yeah,
12-month
yeah,
period.
yep,
I
okay,
think that makes a lot of sense.
okay, so we're good with that.
If you
Like-
buy in fall and you want to rent for the holiday season, is there a smaller fee that we could
No.
have?
It's an,
For-
it's an annual fee.
So they'd have to pay the whole thing and then pay again in June.
Correct. It's basically the same way liquor licenses are run.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
That was a good question.
Let's see. Just, okay, anybody else on zoning fees?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This was something that they discussed, I was on the TPC, and it was in regards to the long-term fee, it being $50, and then the reason being for that, and it hasn't been changed or adjusted, my understanding, as short-term has. I'm just wondering, is long-term a spot where you can increase fees minimally as a space to get revenue? Because the consensus on the TPC, from what I remember, was that they didn't want to do it because they didn't want to make it more difficult for long-term rentals. That was the understanding. And I was just curious to have this conversation with the town board with that in mind.
Good, thank you. Any thoughts on that, members?
I think it could go up minimally to help with the short-term fees that we're cutting.
And we don't get much out of it, probably. right?
And yeah, my next question was, how many long-term rentals are coming in?
So here's the challenge. So your memory is correct. That was the rationale for the TPC of having a long-term rental fee because there is staff time and logistics involved. But to keep it minimal because the idea is to encourage long-term rentals as opposed to short-term rentals so that it addresses the housing challenge for people on the island. The problem, challenge to the TPC and the zoning department has been, although a long-term permit has been required for at least 10 years, nobody ever pursued having people who rent long-term obtain those permits or enforced it. And so it's only been in the last year or so that an effort has been made to reach out to landlords who have long-term rentals, inform them that they should have a long-term permit. So I believe at this point, we have 5 permits. So, any fee increase is not going to contribute substantially to the town budget.
Darn,
Okay. And that was also, I think the conversation too, was that it's a very low number. The reality is there are more people renting long-term out there. They just aren't coming in.
Right, the landlords
So-
are not obtaining. them.
Yeah,
So,
So,
and that's opposed just for numbers purposes. There are this year are 155 short-term rentals.
right, yeah.
so no sense in raising it
Probably
for that.
costs more to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but thank you for
Yeah,
that
all
idea.
right.
Other zoning fees?
Well, does the state mandate anything towards zoning that you're aware of as far as us, the municipality setting a limit? You know what I'm
Not
saying?
that I'm aware of.
I'm not aware of it either.
A limit?
I mean, they-
as far
As far as the highest fee.
Yeah.
No, for a permit fee, I am not aware.
We can just keep setting it until people quit getting.
I mean, my understanding is Bayfield has $700 for a permit. Other communities have different amounts. I've not done any kind of survey. And I'm not sure that the TPC has either outside of the town, just anecdotal or informal.
And we're talking rental permits, is that?
Short-term rental.
I mean, anything to do with zone, well, short-term rental, but I mean, the mandates that the state, like for a disc, how much you can charge for a disc. I mean, there was a mandate on that.
That I have to research issue by issue.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about.
For example, there are limits on what you can charge people for copies.
Right. So
So
they don't have anything on municipalities, as far as you know, for zoning
I've
permits.
never investigated.
I've never.
that, So I don't want to read it. I just know that I've never heard of a limit on short-term rental.
All right, does anybody have any issues on any of the other fees?
Well, there's a question for us. And it's about the campground fees, and I think it's really, I agree with. Having a cancellation fee, one night rental for another 5 days. But it's usually 7 days.
Hmm.
Not 5. And. That's all. That, and anybody else that wants to answer the question?
I also agree. Cancellation fee,
There's,
7 days works.
okay, but we're good with having a cancellation fee.
Yes.
Okay,
So you're talking about your
for the campground.
camp zoning's done.
All right, just to be clear, we have a cancellation fee now, it's $5 right now. And so with this. Idea is to make it more along the lines of the industry standard, it tends to be one guy's rental, it's that's when you're getting the full thing. And I agree, standards are over 3 days, 5 days, 7. I think we started to split the difference.
Okay,
The big thing is whether to increase the fee from $5 to some larger.
Seems reasonable. Okay, I think we have consensus on that. Mike, did you have more on zoning?
No, I just didn't know we moved on.
Okay. So we're in agreement on increasing the cancellation fees.
Ben, do you have any?
They're forfeiting one night. If it's canceled within the 5 day.
Was it 5 day or we're gonna go with 7?
If it's a 7.
I'm indifferent to it.
Okay, so the way this is written here is
Mhm.
one night for.
If you give it
Cancel
5,
4 or 5 days and. Full amount if you cancel less than 5 days. So Amy is suggesting maybe that.
we give them
change to
7 days
That it's
before
7.
they lose the whole amount. I want them to have a week before they lose the whole amount. They,
full
no
rental.
matter if they cancel
Oh, okay.
the day after they rent it, although probably we'd give them a pass, but. A month after they rent it for the next year, they're gonna be charged the one night. But if they cancel within the 7 days where it's harder to fill that spot, then they lose the whole thing.
Okay, so if they give us more than 7 days
Yeah.
notice, they only lose one night.
Right,
If they give us less than 7 days notice, they lose the whole thing.
right.
Is that standard? Is that pretty much?
It's one of the standards.
As I said,
It's all over.
my experience with hotels, you have 3 days, 5 days, 7 days.
Yeah.
It varies.
You want 7?
I don't know, what does everybody else think? I thought it.
I'm kind of indifferent, but 7 makes, I mean, it's a full week, it gives them a chance. The camp, like you said, the town park's gonna fill. Regardless of the date, I think, even 5 days. I think it'll still fill, so. I think it's whatever else consensus is.
Is there? Do you run across, like, what do we have in that in order to have the people that just lost a family member not have to lose their rental? I mean, because that happened all the time at,
That's just a case by case
okay, but that is something.
situation that I usually address.
Okay, perfect.
And one way that we solved it at the end was that you had to use it in the next year.
Yeah, that is what we did. We said
them a
we had to
credit.
use it in the next.
Yeah, so they have they can
Sure.
use their money, but we took it.
Didn't give it back.
We didn't give it back.
No.
We just said, you can still have that fine.
Yep. Okay, I think we've got that covered. Anything else on fees that anyone has? Okay, my only other thing that I had was under the MRF fees. I thought that those could probably go up. I don't have a number, but when we get to the MRF, I'll kind of elaborate on my thoughts, but Anybody else on fees?
I just have kind of a off weird question. So like on the parking things, why do we charge parking? And not, yeah, but
State law.
parking, you have to charge tax.
There are certain things you need to charge tax on. For example, we need to charge tax on shelter rental permits.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
I
Some
don't
things we don't.
understand where the state makes the breakdown or not, but
It's a book about that. Really goes.
Well, I
into-
learned something today.
Yes, that's amazing. It's just, okay, so are we done with the fee schedule?
All, I consider it revenue, like with Murph. Because I'm on the same page as you,
Yeah,
raise the Murph fees.
yeah. Okay, so let's move into the budget follow-up. Go department by department, and then we're just gonna go in the same order that we went through the book. So your good luck or not, you're gonna have your 3 departments up first. All right. So we'll go roads first, and let's go around the table, and I think let's just see what people have, and if you've got more than one thing, that's great. If you've got 15 things, maybe we'll go around. But Sue, do you want to start on roads?
Yes. So Michael, did you get those numbers that I had asked for the roads, page 9?
yeah, those were, I didn't bring the corrections, I can go get them, they're in my list.
Oh,
What I did today is go through all of the insurance costs. I mean, those were formulas that were plugged in previously, and they weren't changed. As far as I can tell, to update 2003 premiums, they were based on 2002 premium. Like the cells that you referenced, I have no idea how those numbers got there. So
Okay.
I did go through, we have a breakdown on 2023 premiums from the insurance company. And allocated them all out to departments. So they're more accurate and obviously. People get those numbers if you want to know what the change is, but
If you were a betting man, what would you say? Could you get the numbers? That'd be great.
Yeah.
Because I think we should have the numbers.
all right. We will take a pause for a moment.
I think it was page 9 is the numbers.
Yep.
Yeah, it's page 9. Under highway equipment.
It's gonna pick up tonight, is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know, it's supposed to switch to the northwest,
All right.
so, and then pick up.
I heard 7.
17.
Yeah, but northwest. Yeah, the hooks, this is the backside of the hook, so that's heading east, so we'll get it tonight. Hook. Well, if you look at radar, that's what I call.
Oh, I have a hard time looking at radar.
When, if it's counterclockwise, if it's spinning counterclockwise, it's low pressure. And then that's causes the northeast, and then we get this weather.
Oh,
And I call it a hook because if you look at it, it hooks. It was like that.
Well, let us all hear the, you said run pause, and I'll talk.
Helen. Now that was-
You're on the air.
You came in, was that person sitting in the car out here?
Yeah.
Those speakers, you can hear, I've been on the ferry boat when somebody's talking to somebody else. And my windows are up and I can hear them. They got those speakers in the car. They're loud. You can listen to actually somebody's conversation. If I would have rolled the window down, I could have heard them easy. But that person,
Waiting for some
they were
numbers.
talking. I was like, jeepers.
Whatever. Sounds good. All right, love you. Bye-bye.
Speaking of which.
What?
Sweet moment.
We're talking about listening people, but even
Okay,
Ben thought it was fun.
Sorry to have caused such a delay with my first.
you're gonna have to wait for your second.
Well, I
question.
know.
We're gonna go around.
I
You're gonna get
realize.
penalized now.
Because there's a good chance that someone else will have your second question. Well. Got some, got four chances.
I don't know if I can read your handwriting. Wow. I think this could probably wait until. Looks again. Can't find it.
I mean, he said he had it, because I called him this morning. Give him a heads up that I'd be asking him.
Glenn, I have a question.
Go ahead.
When we get reassessed,
Mhm.
do you think that our property tax income is going to go up next year? So that, like, some of the stuff that we say wait on,
No,
no? That's what you were saying yesterday, that it just switches everybody's, but the amount stays the same.
correct.
Okay, I just wanted to finalize that in
Yeah.
my head, because I thought that's what you said, but I wanted to double check. Okay,
Yeah, the numerator stays the same.
okay, yep.
It's just the
That's what I thought you
denominator.
said, but I was like, that.
He's done with this.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Michael. We're all done, by the way. We finished.
We can all go home.
You know, what
Yeah, yeah. And the answer is,
you had asked last night about, page 9 of the roads budget,
yep,
account 533135510.
Yep.
So, the short answer is, vehicles, the new amount is 7583, which is higher. Liability is 36120, which of course is much lower, and buildings 301455, which is also lower.
okay,
What was the
But-
last one? I'm sorry.
3014.
301455. Oh, and I didn't pull the inland marine, I will go with that.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, that's good.
We're gonna move on. We'll get that. We'll
Yes.
catch up on that. But, Amy?
I was wondering if the gas tank and the truck are things that could get loans for, we could get loans for, or if people won't give you a loan for no gas tank.
We can get a loan for almost anything we want. So you have the bulk fuel storage, the 20,000 is kind of on your list for either deferral or borrowing. Okay,
And the new plow truck.
and the
If we
new
could
plow truck.
borrow.
Okay. So that would be, yeah, borrowing. Samantha?
My question was on the gravel purchase, if $100,000 is a minimum to make it worth it, or if that number goes lower.
Well, it's certainly a start if we could put at least that.
Just trying to wrap my head, how much do you spend on a bulk gravel order to make it worth it over time?
But he's talking about putting.
He's just putting it aside, just the
Building it
money
up.
aside.
Okay, and then,
Buying it later.
okay, so $100,000 is like the start.
A down
to-
payment on.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand, is
Yeah.
like, how much over time is going to be spent on gravel? So,
So, just by comparison, the piles that were purchased from the county,
mhm,
don't quote me on the exact number, but that was over 300.
okay,
But they were already here.
okay.
We got a deal because it was already
Yeah,
here.
yeah, okay, all right,
So,
that helps, thank you.
yep.
That was kind of one of my questions is how many years do you think it would be stockpiling gravel at, like, let's just say 100,000 a year? And how many years do you think it'd be before you'd start tapping into that or have to get it to tap into? 5 years, 4 years, 6 years?
I would think within 5, we could have 5 more payments to the county. What is there now, be able to make it work, but
And that's 5 days since gravel, so you would get,
we would have to continue to mix that with smaller purchases annually.
so you get 5 days again?
We have to buy something smaller,
All
mix it ourselves.
right.
Please keep in mind, this is also planning for future paving,
Right.
improving the subbase of other roads.
So Ben, you're not planning, you're gonna actually purchase any gravel this year, in 2024?
Correct.
Well, my suggestion would be that we, defer the bulk fuel storage. I'm gonna say either put it in as a contingency in the budget or take it out altogether, depending on how we are. I would say, since we're not gonna get it for this winter, right? It won't be here for this winter. At the earliest, let's think about maybe if we have the money, getting it next fall. And if we don't have the money, then just pray that the ferries run year round. Right? But so, and then I think, as far as the gravel purchase, I think given a lot of uncertainty, in the budgeting, particularly as it relates to the potential ferry purchase, I'd be comfortable just moving that till 2025, with the understanding that we know we have to do it, and we may have to double up and do 200,000 in a designated fund in 2025.
Okay.
But
As long as everybody's understanding that, what you just said.
Yep.
If
So kicking the can down the road.
yeah, it's kicking the can down the road.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
If we were awarded any other state funding, suddenly, like, here's our opportunity, let's
Yeah.
not waste it then.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that.
Yep. No, I think, we might have to move quickly, but at this point. And my only other thing was on the fuel oils, seemed considerably higher than historically. And I'm just wondering if that's a place we can cut. It was, I think 50,000 was what you had in there, and it looked like we'd been spending around 35. That I know it's not a ton of money, but
Right. It's also during another winter season. We just had. What could be helpful with that? There's other factors with other departments. Use.
Okay.
Usage. So essentially that, I don't know. Give me longer to ask you, but I don't know how that ever worked historically with FAR, other than the sheets that we turn in and what gets billed back to different departments. And bulk purchases come out of roads budget when those tanks are filled. And then however it's broken down for department use.
what other departments besides roads use your?
When you're talking about two different things.
Besides all the rain equipment.
Yeah.
Fire trucks, police, patrol vehicles.
Oh, really?
are
Okay.
bigger.
But not diesel. Police use gas.
They do.
And
But
diesel prices went way up.
Okay.
This includes gasoline and diesel.
Okay.
Just
All right, well, it's just something,
filling the.
yeah,
bulk.
yeah, it was a noticeable increase, and so,
I thought we should also plan, just in case, plan ahead. Guess they're gonna be.
that is true. That is true. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sue, did you have?
No, I think all my roads questions have been answered. Yes, all my roads questions have been answered.
Okay, any other roads questions?
I just want to ask Ben. From his last time he was here, and he talked about truck, you wanted a new truck for this year. What is the most, like, if you pick the three things out of your budget that you have to have this year, you cannot get by another year without it.
3 things out of 3 that I'm asking for.
Well, I mean, your capital outlays. I mean, your capital, not the worksheet, but capital stuff.
Well, that's for the roads department, the truck is a need because one has been retired and one is failing, but we could still get a decent amount of
Pickup truck.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. We could still get a decent amount at auction next year, but it's not worth dumping more money into.
Okay.
The other requests, I think, could only serve everybody as far as the gravel and fuel tanks.
Mhm. Right, and
So
So those are the three are,
those are my 3 for the roads department.
okay.
And the other capital requests are just like tires or maintenance things that we just
Yeah. Obvious.
can't live without or operate without.
Okay.
I would be okay with the pickup truck. Again, if we can afford it, I mean, I think it is a high priority. So if there's some way, and we can definitely get a loan. Probably not at 0%, but
But that is a truck that would be used to plow, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Year round.
so,
And it will be used.
does anyone have an objection to trying to keep the truck in?
No,
No,
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
next item, parks. We'll start with Mike. Parks.
I've got the same thing, like with the Parks Department, what can't they live without? And besides the office, and you gas for mowing and I know that.
So. No capital at all.
It's just a plain old worksheet.
Comparatively to 2023. Well,
It's like, what can we work around?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to eliminate stuff.
what we can't live without is toilet paper.
That's- We'll get you going.
Again, that's sort of the,
I think people are just.
there are no capital requests this year and continue to find a little bit more playground grants.
No,
No,
nothing. Amy?
I was just wondering why the wages are so much.
That's because we built in to the parks budget, the potential zoning department employee, I guess. So I think on your sheet, that might still be in there.
No, that's taken out. So, can you be a little more specific as to what you're looking at?
Well, it seems like last year's budget request for parks wages was about $10,000 and now it's $33,570.
Yeah. It's that first line. Parks wages.
That would be something I would have to see what was included. Last year, but because there's no new positions here.
Right.
In fact, there's last year there was a request for a Parks 3 that was not hired.
Right.
So
So. Look at that as well, Amy. I thought that was the potential zoning part-time position.
No, there's no number by that on page. There's
Okay,
no number by the road zone. It's just parts 1 and 2 adds up to 32.
So
Maybe this year's is wrong.
That's what I'm thinking is that this year's budget, so if you look, we're looking at the overview,
Mhm.
and you look at page 2, the overview where it breaks down Big Bay Town Park. That request is $15,000 less than last
Okay.
year. So right off, my immediate guess is that somewhere when Barb set up these spreadsheets, she allocated wages differently.
Okay,
Between this year and next year. The position, it's a position.
right, okay.
I think the lines are crossed between Big Bay and Park General pages.
Okay. Thank you.
That was my parts.
Okay. My only comment on parks is we've got a 20% increase in revenue and a 32% increase in expenses overall for the Parks Department. And that just seems like kind of out of kilter. So I would encourage to take a look at the payroll numbers, the wages numbers on parks, and see if we can't find some things that we might have not counted properly or something, or we can have a good reason for it. Any other parks?
Well, can you be more specific? Because again, the way Barb had these spreadsheets set up, if you look at page 1 of the worksheet,
Mhm.
he combines then Parks and Big Bay Town Park.
Right.
There's the people for last year's. And so
Uh, You're looking at the amount of the budget request. I'm looking at the actual plus estimated for the year, not the budget amounts, not the budget request this year versus last year, but the actuals this year versus budget request. So it would be the last column versus the column that says 2023 total year to date plus estimated. So for parks, just parks, it's 73,929. And then if you add Big Bay, that's another 93,102. So about 166,000. And versus 220,000, 219,856. Did you follow that, Michael? So if I look at,
I see the columns that you're looking at.
okay.
So just review it and get back to you tomorrow, I think.
Doesn't have to be tomorrow.
Okay.
I think we're
We have a
giving,
weekend building.
we're giving you guys all next week
Okay.
to work through all of this. So that's all I had. Anybody else with anything? Works. Okay. Move down to Murph. We'll start with Sue.
The only thing I had was potentially looking at moving the clean sweep to 2025. That was the only thing I was wondering about, potentially moving the clean sweep to 2025.
Good question.
They tell us when they're gonna come.
You're saying this is the year, it's biannual. Isn't it?
So we can, or we can,
Rearrange it.
yeah,
second to the last exchange, whatever you want to call the building closest to the cell towers. Pretty full. As far as hazardous materials go,
I know Marty, right, talked about it, get rid of it.
quite a bit there.
And then and that has accumulated in just a year,
2 years.
Two seasons.
2 seasons, 2 summer seasons. So we would be adding 1 more summer season. It was just a thought, it was just a thought, because obviously changing.
Well, we could certainly make room. It'd just be. I hate to say it again, but kicking the can down the road because it'd be even more.
Right.
Five, as far as volume goes.
With the building, is there any way to put up a roof for cheaper, just to keep the plastic out of the sun? Until we could frame in all the walls and doors and blah, blah, blah for paper, or the project should just all be done at once to build the building?
I don't know if there is a better or a cheaper option to work with what's there already as far as that existing concrete bunker.
Mhm.
I know the emergency supervisor is really like to see that happen. And I agree that trying to make the best use of something that's been sitting there unused for so many years is a good idea, because it's not doing anything now except storing vehicles waiting to be processed. But we could rearrange the storage options that are there currently, which includes the old exchange. I'm sorry, the second to the last exchange, the small garage, the old original exchange. We could just continue to rearrange and move as much out of there as we can. The paper is the big one.
Right.
I know it's nice to keep that as dry as possible, but. The supervisor really wants to see that happen.
Right,
My way of thinking is, we spent a lot of years with that MRF looking like it did before these guys took over and rearranged stuff, and it got it looking pretty good now. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to keep getting rid of
Right.
stuff. I don't want to start collecting stuff and piling stuff up and making extra buildings for piling more shit up, because that's exactly what you're gonna get, a mess. That's the way I look at it.
Well, that's what the request was for, was a building
the storm.
to store that stuff, hoping that the recyclable pricing would go up. And, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that how it was?
Yep.
And I
Just to be clear, though, it's not building a building, or just, it's a roof system.
Right.
That would go over the existing
bunker,
bunker that was never completed long before my time.
along those same lines, I'd like to suggest that we not hold on to scrap metal and try to play the markets on it, especially with what interest rates are now. I think earlier when having extra money didn't really do the town any good. Now if we can sell this stuff for $20,000, that's $20,000 that we don't have to borrow at 5-6% interest. And so, unless these guys, I believe they do understand the metals market and the recycled scrap market and the paper market, but I don't know that they understand the interest rate market and what the town has to pay to borrow money. And also the cost of storing this stuff, right? If we weren't storing all this stuff, we would have more room. And
Correct.
so I would be in support of this capital project for them at $10,000, $9,000 and change. But I would also encourage them to not be holding on to paper, and let's
Keep it moving.
keep it moving. Let's just get get the stuff out of here. And we'll let the accounting people and the finance people worry about, you know, maximizing our profits on things. So any thoughts, Sam?
Then we're gonna have to make it clear now, because the reason to go to self-hauling was to do exactly what you're saying we're not gonna do. That we went to self-hauling to store stuff and then get the best price. So what you're saying is get rid of it, and so you don't have to store it and haul it away and not worry about that anymore. So
Oh, I thought the self-hauling was about the
The
waste.
company.
it's about everything they store out there. You gotta get rid of it.
Yeah, but the scrap metal and the scrap paper, I mean, that is minimal compared to what we send off in trash.
Not
And
weight-wise.
And Demcon,
Not tonnage.
really?
No, tonnage wise, it's a lot more. Barb put that thing out last year that we had, the tonnage, you know, for hauling scrap metal and stuff. I mean, I know what you're saying and I agree, except you know, Marty, if Marty was sitting here, he'd be saying no. Because they know more than I know, or we know about getting rid of that stuff.
I thought when the hauling company went out of business and we were looking for a new hauling company, that their fees were too high. And that's why we bought a truck to carry our own stuff.
I don't know that they went out of business. The fees, we just decided to self-haul ourselves, that it was cheaper.
Amy's correct, the labor hours. Somebody leaving Ashland. Well, they weren't, both companies in Ashland weren't available to do that on a regular,
Right.
consistent schedule, and with the amount of stuff that is increased, I mean, Michael's still going 2-3 times a week.
Yeah, he goes over a lot.
In the busy season, and now he's going 2 or 3 times a week just to empty the place out.
Yeah.
For the cold season anyway.
Well, Ben, what do you think about the idea? What do you think about the idea of us,
Building
well, building that, but also,
for more dry storage,
yeah, but, well, to
to keep it moving.
keep stuff moving?
I think we should always the goal to keep it moving, because once it starts to pile up, as Mike
Okay,
said,
so you wouldn't wait
it's going
till,
backwards.
you wouldn't wait till we see the market price of aluminum going up?
It's hard to predict, but it's also hard to, you know, when suddenly somebody's. You guys remember the Joe days, suddenly it was 160 a ton in Ashland and they're ready to check the same day, like,
Yeah.
we're gonna smash some cars right now.
Yeah,
Bring it over and come back with a check.
that's the nice part about self-hauling.
That's for
Get rid of it when you want
But you're long term and trying to plan for that and budget for that is
Okay,
a crapshoot.
all
I
right,
would agree that we keep it as much as,
and not hold on to stuff.
right, especially plastic, there's no point.
I would think, you know, that Ben should talk to Marty and say, you know, what we just said, and then come up with maybe a solution. You know, we won't want to keep it, we don't want to be storing stuff. We'd like to keep it moving. And we're self-hauling, so Michael can make those trips and get rid of our stuff and not have to pay for storage.
And build new buildings for storage.
Well,
More
see what he
storage.
says about, I mean, if he might have a complete different take on the matter. I don't know. Certainly seen when he was here.
He really wants to see additional storage space.
Well,
It would help to keep the grounds cleaned up some more too, right?
How do you,
Can't
can you,
that.
how do you, because I'm struggling with why we would do the building if we're talking all to keep it moving. How do you see that if that building could be used other than storing stuff for later to keep it moving?
That would be its sole purpose. There wouldn't be really another use for that building. It would be to store baled recyclables. If that were the case, then the hauling truck could live in the old exchange out of the snow. So.
Oh, okay, so you would
It
be
just be rearranging.
rearranging, okay.
And he
Thank
wants
you.
to make the island closet bigger too, right? He wants to take some storage out of there and have furniture instead of people.
Yeah, the second old exchange, which is storing the hazmat materials now. Marty would like to see that turn into a secondary. I don't know how that will be associated with the closet and their mission and everything that they're doing, but
Just take bigger items.
he would like to accept bigger items that get rejected by the closet and end up going in the demo bin or sit out and then nobody takes them in time and they get rained on and.
All right, do we have some consensus here?
Well, you know what we're saying. You go back to Marty and tell him what we're saying and see what he says.
We can talk about
I don't like, I don't like Ben being the middleman, you
it.
know?
Well, that's kind of what I have to do here. so.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
But we might want to approve just of the trust system or not. So that's in your hands right now.
I would say yes with the trust system, but we got to start selling the scrap stuff faster.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
I also think that payroll has pretty big increase in Murph payroll that I think should be taken a look at. The additional staffing.
Cause he wants the guy to sort the trash. That's what he said, right?
Yeah, so I
Sort the recyclables, I mean.
Again-
The request was for additional
Right.
seasonal help.
yeah,
And again, the initial budget had hours for my. There should have been, so,
okay, all right,
you know, that's reducing by 20%.
great, thank you. Yeah, again, Murph revenue was budgeted to be 12% over what it was this year, and yet expenses were projected to be double what they are this year. So I think there's probably a fair amount of pencil sharpening that needs to be done on that. Are there other Murph issues, questions, comments? Okay, let's move. Thank you, Ben. I think we may be done with your. Oh, yeah, I guess you're part of your airport too, aren't you? Okay. Got lost in my binder. Thank you, Sue. Airport. Sue?
So based on current events at the airport. And things that happened at the airport currently.
Sure.
Are we in safe standings with electronic communications?
Yes, and the airport manager went out of his way to ensure that certain things were operating the way they should be.
So then as a, can I do a follow-up?
Sure.
So as a follow-up question, we had talked about, because on the fee schedule, it's that if you don't pay, then it's double. We had it set up where people could tell our Venmo. Is that still a thing they can do?
Yes, that's.
Okay, so everything's back to normal, except there are not things that can be transportation to town. There isn't as many of those things there.
Pipes.
Okay.
Okay.
You're correct.
Got it.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Amy? Sam?
Any timeline at all? Like, we asked a question, or I asked a question about the terminal is put on hold by the BOA because of the.
Well, it's in their hands.
I would say it's we don't know what their timetable, because they fast tracked bringing in a consultant and hiring a consultant to design a rehabilitation project. And now they seem to be slowing down only in the sense that they think they now need an area layout plan or perhaps a full master plan in order to rehab it. So we don't know where they are, because they have suddenly kind of shifted gears a little bit or gone a little bit sideways.
So we're just kind of like in a holding pattern, waiting for them to make up their mind.
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
Regarding the terminal, that's how I
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you, Mike. My only thing was to make sure that they get their new AC condenser for the. We don't want mutiny.
I saw that.
There was some mention of mutiny. Yes, I think we want to avoid. We want to avoid that if we can. For a lawnmower. Yeah, okay. All right, that's airport. No other airport? No, okay. Okay, Ben, now you are actually, I think. Over.
Cemetery.
Does he have, oh, cemetery, yeah, you got. I just want to get you out of here, I guess. Okay, Mike, cemetery?
I got nothing. I just threw it out there because.
Yeah, no, you're right, you're right.
Is he not back there?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess he is, Dock and Harbor.
Dinner date.
No, I just, I'm just confused. I didn't have anything for Dock and Harbor. That's why it wasn't in my
Right.
packet.
I didn't.
If you've been.
I didn't either.
No one had Dock and Harbor. No one had Dock and Harbor. Okay. Cemetery. Anybody cemetery?
No.
Cemetery. My only two things. One, why we needed cleaning supplies when we've got Barony. So we've got $1,000 in cleaning supplies and we also have them.
At this, Apple requested by, Marcus,
Okay,
build back to.
okay. And we're gonna,
So I can, see, based on the last meeting, this. At least what I have in front of me, the spreadsheets after. That could probably be reduced, but
okay,
over sealer, et cetera, that's the request by Ted.
okay, well, let's do that. And then I know you're gonna change the designated fund name to Chapel Fund. I think you,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, it's on my to-do.
Yeah,
okay,
there are a number of line items that have,
odd names.
well, names that are different depending on, so it's not the account number is the same, but it's got
Yeah,
different names.
Of course.
it saves.
Very good. Thank you.
And just for Dock and Harbor, it's just for the record, I mean, we need to decide something. Where authority over that. Rests. Our commission. With its. Negotiations with the fair.
Yeah, and I think when that happens, we will talk about that. I don't think we need to talk about it right now because it hasn't happened yet.
Right, but I'm just
Yeah,
putting, because it affects. Revenue to whether it goes to the town or our commission.
Right.
yeah, I think as far as that goes, I would keep in the lease payment from like you have in there. I would keep in the $50,000 payment that they still owe for the dock improvement per year for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that,
Yeah,
right?
so I would keep those in. Yeah. And when the time comes for us to consider turning over jurisdiction over the dock, that'll be a conversation we can have. So thank you though for bringing that up.
So I'm gonna work the full town. Will be on the agenda at some.
Absolutely.
Well, I just wonder if it doesn't matter because those fees and the fees that like Murph is paying might balance out. And so it doesn't really change our numbers. If there's lease coming in, but
Oh, well, yeah.
going out, if the lease stops, then the payments stop.
I hear what you're
wonder if
saying.
they,
It potentially, I don't think it would quite balance out, but yeah, I mean, that we pay a lot in ferry fees.
Yeah.
As a town, I mean, you'd see a ferry fee throughout the budget. I don't know if it would make up the 48,000. It might come close, but good point. It might not have much of a net effect. There are other things. The 50,000, is a different story.
Right.
But okay, moving on to police. Thank you, Ben. I think the biggest issue on the police is are we gonna do 5 days or 7 days a week locally? And so I would be interested in what it's about $105,000 is the difference to the town. Of doing 24 hours, 5 days a week, 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's about 105,000 more for the town to do 7 days a week than it is 5. We did forewarn the electorate at the last town levy meeting that if we needed to go 24/7 on our own, there was going to be a increase in the tax levy of, I think we said 135,000, which was what we were getting from the county. It may be that we have gotten it to where it might be as low as 105,000. So that's where that is. And I think before we go further on the police budget, I would just like to get a poll of the board as to 24/7 or 24/5. And if it's 24/7, would you support asking for an increase in the tax levy to cover that? Sue?
So I felt like when we did talk about it and forewarn people that it would be a tax levy, most of them primarily agreed with that would be fine. And so it's no surprise that I am for 24/7 and the tax levy increase.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
I'm for 24/5. I think that a lot of the people that came to the meetings were EMTs and the fire department, and I don't want to piss them off at all. But I don't think that we heard from a lot of the people that are going to be affected by higher levies. And when I voted for it last year, it was because we had the money to have 24/7. And I just don't think that it's sustainable to take more from our people every year to continue funding something that should be done by another party.
Okay, thank you. Samantha?
I see the importance of 24/7 for EMS. I think that's most important for me, but I do agree with Amy. I think it's not sustainable, and in the future, I don't know if it's something that we can consistently keep doing. So right now, I think it's important to do 24/7, but I don't know if it's sustainable. And I do support the levy.
So you'd go 24/7?
I would right now.
Mike?
I wouldn't go 24/7, and I don't even know if I'd go 24/5. If 40 years ago plus, the county came to the town of La Pointe and begged the town of La Pointe to take it over, and we did. And we were helpful to the county. Now the county pulled out 2 years ago, and they said it was 130 or 135, whatever you want. They pulled it out. It's not our problem, it's their problem. And we've created our own problem, as far as I'm concerned. We've caused this problem. And as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't be anything over 24/5.
Do you see the work that Ashland is doing as adequate though, going forward?
No.
And I think that's where my concern is, where.
But the thing is, the state statute says it's their responsibility. And it's not if they don't want to do it, let them fight with the people. I mean, why should it be our problem? It wasn't our problem 40 years ago, and we helped them. And now all of a sudden it's become our problem. I don't know why it's our problem. It wasn't our problem 40 years ago. And now it's all of a sudden it's our problem. Why? The law didn't change. That's how I look at it.
So it's 2-2, huh?
It's up to you.
Boy, that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be hard enough balancing this budget. You know, I think if we did do 24/7, we definitely would have to get a levy increase. I'd say for right now, let's put in 24/5 and bring that to the electorate. And if they want to go, you know, I think we can, we will certainly hear from them between now and December if people think that this is a big mistake.
So before we make a total decision on that,
Mhm.
can I ask some of the questions that I thought we'd talk about before we jump to this?
Okay, for the police.
When we had the conversation with Bill and he was talking about the overtime pay and all that.
Mhm.
And then you were gonna meet with either Michael or with Bill the next day to kind of get an understanding of that. Because when I looked at just the way that I was looking at it with the overtime, it's actually $96,768 is what's projected to be overtime pay.
Mm.
And so that's almost close to the amount of, so I added that if we did have a additional full-time person, that, there would be a savings. And so I'm just wondering, the savings was 22,595, because I'm really still very confused about how overtime is factored in, because that overtime bill makes $55 an hour. And so I didn't know, did you have
But not
that?
when he's sleeping,
What?
but not when he's
Not when
sleeping.
he's-
His overtime sleeping hours are $25 an hour
Okay,
or something.
Correct.
okay, so you can't take that whole number into.
Right.
Okay. All right,
I mean, Glenn did come in. I think he understood. I will always be willing to try to explain how the formulas need to work so that we are in compliance with wage and hour laws.
yeah,
The short version of it is, and Amy understands or said, you know, one part of it is that some of the overtime hours that have to be reflected in a spreadsheet like this are the sleeping hours.
mhm,
Because anytime in a pay period, and we have 2-week pay period, so anything in that 2-week pay period over 86 hours on duty has to be counted as overtime. And under wage and hour laws, because we are an island and police officers do not have
access,
freedom to
To a
live
home,
their life,
right,
they are considered on duty. And so they are paid for being here.
and should,
And so that is, but that is at a reduced rate, which is $25 a shift unless they are called out. And so that $25 a shift is then essentially averaged into their total pay for that pay period. And every pay period is a different rate against which the time and a half is multiplied.
okay,
So it's very difficult to give you hard and fast numbers as to
that's fine,
what, you know, what the actual overtime rate is, except for it is far less than time and a half.
okay, thank you.
And so Sue, if I'm inferring some of what you were looking at for a solution, it is true that if we have full-time, if we fill the shifts with full-time positions, we can reduce the number of overtime hours and especially keep the overtime hours relatively low for each pay period, so. You know, if someone's working 110 hours a pay period as opposed to 140 hours, that pay rate against which time and a half is factored is much lower because it's a bigger percentage.
Mhm.
So yes, having 3 full-time officers, we believe minimizes the amount of overtime we need to pay. You know, the flip side, and again, we raised this the other day, is if we go to 24/5, it certainly does reduce the town costs, but it does that by reducing officers' salaries across the board. And so the question is whether we will be able to maintain three people here. Or, you know, their wage isn't the same, but their take-home pay is going to be significantly less because they have fewer shifts.
Mhm.
So that's the balancing act that there's no easy answer to.
So what about, if we did 24/5 in the summer when he wants 2 people on the weekends? And don't hire any part-time officers? Like, whenever he was going to schedule a part-time Carl or,
Carl won't be.
no, I'm looking at,
Yeah,
I'm
Mike-
saying the wrong name.
Mike and Kurt are the seasonal officers.
Okay, Mike and Chris, if any shifts that he was gonna put them on, if we make Ashland County responsible for those
We've not
shifts.
done that kind of numbers crunching. We certainly could do that. I mean, the reality is
Cause it would keep their pay higher.
essentially, if I understand what you're saying, is you would have the kind of staffing we have now. But we would double up the shifts as Bill believes it's necessary for peak weekends.
Right,
So
and not
I'm
spend
not,
the
I mean,
60,000 or whatever on the parts.
I don't know how much overall. I mean, that would save money from a 24/7. But I don't know that it would make any real difference in a 24/5 budget. I mean, we can play around with some scenarios, but.
I have a question. The idea of us being a very seasonal place, is there a conversation we can have about it being 24/7 in our peak season and 24/5 in our slower season? I don't know if it would be.
That doesn't help retain our officers though.
I mean,
But if we're
it
talking
helps
budget, how much would we be looking at in a budget that it's?
it would help some, again, we haven't done that kind of a breakdown, we certainly could. Essentially run 24/7 outside the school year and 24/5 during the school year, which is sort of how we have it set up currently. I can certainly run that kind of a scenario and see what it comes out as far as wages or salaries for officers, cost for the budget, that
Why
kind
don't we do that?
of. Okay.
Yeah. That'd be good.
Okay.
I agree with what she just said. If you take 2 guys, I agree with Bill when he said 2 guys in the summertime. I agree with that because if something happens, somebody's got to go and then you got nobody. That used to happen quite a bit. But anyway, you get 2 guys in the summertime working, and then on holidays, obviously, you get 2 guys working, and then in the off season, you go to that 24/5. And I mean, I didn't do the math, but I can't believe they can't get full-time pay out of that. I mean,
Yeah.
I certainly think they could.
Okay, good. I think we may have consensus on this. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, actually, that'll be fairly easy to run because we have all of the background.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Okay. Other police comments? Anybody?
Mm-mm. No,
You?
I would defer the new laptops, but $6,000. And I don't know the squad outfitting, is that?
That's a duplicate.
Okay. Okay. So
We can't defer those. If the state mandates that they're changing the system, they have to have that new system. That's automatic. We can't,
I don't know what.
I don't know either. I think that's what he said. If they go to accident report writing and ticket writing, and things like that, with the new system, obviously they got to get a new laptop or car.
Sure. If it's required,
Yeah.
if it's discretionary, okay. Moving on, if everyone's done with police. Ambulance. Comments on ambulance.
No. Going back, he says, current ones purchased in 2016, they're outdated and slowing down, but would continue to use. So it doesn't say that he has to.
You'll find out, Mike.
I will.
I would say too, if we're buying new computers for the town, you know, if they can last a little bit longer and the town, the hall's computers are, you know, prioritize computers this year for one and next year the other. Yeah. So you're not.
Yeah. Okay. Ambulance.
I just, I think about revenues and I'm just like, I think now there's getting a billing system where people, if you weren't hauled off the island, you weren't billed, but now you are, right? Thing. And so that's my biggest question is, you know, I hate to listen to the ambulance go on calls and we don't get any revenue on it, but yet we pay for it.
Right.
So.
So hopefully,
As Cindy said, we don't have a track record yet with this billing company.
That's what I mean.
The current success rate is 20%.
Yeah, not good.
good.
Well, I'll have you all know that Cora got called by a lawyer for her bill that I had paid. So they are getting on.
Good.
Cora was like, Mom, didn't you? What's the check number? And she called the lawyer and she's like, no, my mom paid that for me, I swear. But so they are cracking down. So
Those
hopefully
recent-
we see some money. That was a month ago. Yeah, but I mean, they are doing something.
They were informed that. they would be paid, so.
Oh.
Okay, any other EMS comments? I have a couple. I don't know that we have heard that they're having trouble with off-season weekend on call. I thought it was more the peak season that was the problem, and now they want to extend that $85 weekend rate to every weekend in the year. And I'd say that's maybe a place we can take a look at. Further to the discussion with Cindy, I think given that this is a new thing, I don't know that we can expect we're going to get 100%
Right?
revenue. So I don't know what the right amount to cut that back by, but it would seem to me 20%. We should probably cut it back, you know.
I've already
Okay,
done that. I mean, I'd rather be pleased with the revenue or amount than be disappointed.
yeah. There's a miscellaneous director's expense, which I don't see in any other department.
That's one of those misnamed things. It's essentially
Okay,
miscellaneous expenses, period.
okay,
This one says director's expense, fire department says fire chief's
okay,
expense. I mean, those are essentially miscellaneous funds.
okay.
And I guess we need that in the director, he puts to whether those.
Okay. Any other comments on the ambulance? Fire? I'll start with, I don't think that we're going to be building a substation.
That's not,
Certainly not-
that's not next year anyway.
Certainly not for $350,000. But
A long.
yeah. Which. Anybody have anything on fire?
I was wondering how come we need so many outfits for, the water people? People,
Those are not scuba, those are self-contained breathing apparatus. Everybody needs those to go in.
Oh. Okay, I thought it was the
Fire.
guy.
Right, well.
Ice rescue guys.
SCBA versus SCUBA.
Okay. Got it.
The U meaning underwater.
Yeah.
Okay, any other fire?
I had a question on the, this, page number. It's for commercial inspectors. It went up from
81%.
386, yeah, to 700. It's not a significant number, but I was just wondering why so much?
So I believe Rick addressed this, but if not, he at least talked with me about it. So he's essentially saying the success the ambulance service had with providing an incentive to sign up for weekend shift. So commercial inspections are something they've had a problem getting people to step forward to do. And it is one of those tasks that if they do it, it qualifies them for the 2% dues rebate from the state. So it, becomes a catch-22. If you don't get it, you disqualify yourself for money, state money. And it's one of the things that you have to talk to the department about, how they're gonna make sure that some of these duties that we essentially get reimbursed for and then some, how they get done and how they get done reliably. And so this is one way of trying to entice people to step forward and give them a little extra financial incentive. Because of the success the ambulance service has. But it's a bigger issue.
It has a large new crew. There's a lot of people that have signed up in the past few years, so
Right.
compared to EMS.
But
Especially, so I really hope some of those people start
right,
filling those roles, especially
right now, it's not the new chief.
if this is what the solution is.
Thank you, Sam. Anybody else on fire? Okay, library. My only question would be if we can defer the ADA doors for a year. I think they said the roofing was more important.
Yeah.
They have been asking for ADA doors since I've got here, so they've been continuing to defer. I simply said that.
The roof is urgent. It sounds like the ADA doors are merely important.
That was my question, which is more important.
The roof did sound like it was the library's wish to have done this year.
So as far as capital outlay, you're saying 24,000 for the roof
Mhm.
and deduct 8,000 for the doors.
Yeah. Any other comments? Clinic? Any changes?
I think we all know how we get there.
Last but not least, well, no, we've got the committees too, but zoning and committees. Zoning, I think, so general government and committees. General government, I think I've already talked about eliminating the dedicated debt reserve.
Right.
I think we should look into becoming a premier resort tax place. So getting that 0.5% or 1/4%.
Okay, I don't believe that can happen in the next couple of months. The research I've seen in a file we do not anywhere near the retail base to qualify.
Yeah, this wasn't, we tried this. Were you on the town board when we tried it before? Do you remember, Sue?
I don't, I.
We tried this once before and we weren't eligible. We weren't sharing.
We don't have enough.
Yeah, and that's the documentation that I see.
Yeah, we weren't eligible back then, so I don't know that it's changed,
I
but
don't know that our retail base has changed significantly. That's certainly.
check. But yeah, we don't know.
Okay, anyone else have anything on general government?
I do. So we're looking at the router, the switches, the access at 8,000, the server at 10,000. And then computers. And the computers at $1,200 for the computers. And then the other night we were talking about that our website guy was talking about looking at like the network. And then Amy mentioned, maybe some of these other things with a better network or whatever it is you had mentioned he was looking at, I think the systems and things. So I'm thinking that maybe we should focus on that and not so much some of the stuff and maybe defer some of that. So we split it because right now it looks like we're doing a lot in 1 year.
Get the router and the internet and see if it fixes the
Yeah.
computers, but have it in there if they still take 15 minutes to load up.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think that if we bought those two things and the computers do better, then we don't have to buy them this year.
right. I agree with you. I think it should be broke up, but that's not really a question. It's really more a comment.
If they still go slow, then
Yeah.
it's the money will be in there, but don't buy them until you find out.
The order of operations.
Yeah.
That's how we're doing it.
The only other thing I had was the landing fee. And I think given what we're going through with the purchase of the ferry line right now, that's just going to add a layer of complexity to what we're going to have to go through this next year. I don't even know if I've seen and talked to lawyers who don't think we can even do this. I'd like to see us look into like maybe having our attorney give us a legal opinion that we can actually do this before we float this out there. If we do end up buying the ferry line, we can accomplish this much more simply by having the ferry line simply increase the fares. If we don't, then we're going to have to get the ferry line's cooperation to do this. And I think to do that is going to require us to have some more legal standing, more legal authority to do that. I know that's 150,000. It's a lot of money.
Or more.
But yeah, we're looking at. But I'm just not comfortable. The other thing is Bayfield is looking into doing something similar.
They already have it on the books.
That's using the city dock. They do that.
They already have.
Or-
They already do it.
$2 surcharge for anybody who uses.
Head tax.
city tax For commercial purposes.
Really,
Yes.
And the ferry boat.
really.
Yeah, if it goes in the old harbor. Only if. it
So
goes
they
in the
have,
old harbor.
that has,
For windy days.
okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah, they, like, for example, Apostle Island cruises, every passenger pays a $2 fee.
Really
It goes to the city.
interesting. Okay, well, I think it's going to complicate it, but you're on the Harbor Commission.
Well, Michael called it a landing fee, but then when we talked about it the other night, it could be called a head tax. It could be called all sorts of things. And so we don't know yet.
Okay,
We don't know.
Service charge.
So, yeah,
Again, the research I had done in this is old, it's probably 2 years old. Because this idea has been around forever,
Mhm.
is that we have the authority to do it as long as we have our permission. But I completely understand the complication it creates on collecting and administering that kind of a fee,
Okay.
at this point.
Well,
I can certainly get us another more current legal opinion if you want to have that in our back pocket.
That would be
If and
great.
when the time comes,
that would be great.
because now we have a harbor commission.
Right.
So we can actually
Yeah.
get advice as to how to
Yeah.
implement it.
That would be awesome. If you could do that.
If you do that, Mike, I'll make up like a couple scenarios. We already own the town dock. I mean, the town of Point owns the town dock.
Right.
And if we purchase the ferry line, the harbor commission owns the ferry line, you know, a couple different scenarios and see what.
Or we don't. Right.
We don't.
Okay. All right. Any other general government?
Just back to the capital.
Okay. The computers.
Nobody has talked about the copier.
Oh,
I think that's
yeah,
fine.
the copy is good.
I think, yes, go ahead with the copier.
Yeah.
I was astounded that it's 12 years old
Right.
because I
I was.
remember being here when they got it. And well, that couldn't have been 12 years ago. But
Were you here when they got it? I mean.
yeah.
Oh,
It was- yeah.
Wow.
The one that this one replaced, when Wes, the guy who works for Xerox, when he came, I mean, he was, you know how many copies that thing makes? It makes like for New York City, and we're the town of La Point. I mean, that thing goes constantly. It makes-
We do use a lot of paper. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's a topic for another day. We should definitely be looking at that because, yes, I mean, I know when I go home after a town board meeting, you know, where everything goes, which is to the MRF.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate my house with it, so.
So do I.
Okay, would you like them rolled up in like?
Yeah, right.
log shape? Okay. Michael, okay, that answered your question. Committees. Next. My personal thing is on the public arts. I want to be supportive of them, but I don't think that we can be the primary supporter of their work. So I would go $500 with each of those projects. So 1,500 instead of the 4,000 that they were looking for.
Agree, yeah.
Well, but I was thinking, when Mary Atmore was talking about it last night, or, yeah, wasn't that last night?
Mhm.
And they don't really know what they're gonna do yet. They
Right.
didn't know if it was gonna go up, if it was gonna go down, and I think Amy brought up the fact of, you know, when we signed that agreement to make it the park
Right,
into the green space.
right.
And so for those reasons alone, you know, I mean, how do you, it's like, I understand that they want that money in order to go forward with the project, but
Well, how about if we do 500 for the two and not do anything for the propeller project until they know what they're wanting to do?
Still, we see a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they can really.
that's what I was gonna ask. Can we somehow put it like in the content, like it be there, so we don't have to borrow money or something? It'd be there, and then just when you come up with a better plan, let us know, and then we'll look at it.
So you want to give them the 500 for that too?
And hearing
With a-
no.
Well, I want to understand what they're gonna do, and if it's compatible with whatever Sue said, or you said, somebody down there said it last night about the green space, and whether or not it's gonna be, you know, horizontal or vertical, is it gonna take up, they didn't have any answers really.
And they want to know from the insurance company.
Yeah, so
Like, that
okay.
plan doesn't look like a death trap.
How about if we do just the 500 for the two? If they have an idea for the third, for the propeller, then come back to us
So
next
the
year.
two would be the,
The chalk and the
And the
winter
winter.
festival.
I agree with that.
The I mean, I really don't know about the chalk. I mean, seems like a good idea. I don't know. I'm not gonna participate, but anyway, the fall festival. Yeah, fall festival. I understand that,
Winter.
or the winter. I mean, I'm all for that. Because that's, hey, if it's anything to get things rolling
People out in the winter,
time.
I'm a little
And it was-
concerned with that.
Just a little background on that, it would likely align with the kids' ski race that we've been doing.
Oh,
We're
it-
going on year 4.
Right,
And I was approached not by this committee, but by other people in the community. If they could partner with that event that we do. That event was also the same day as the Snow Snake
yeah,
Festival. And typically the same weekend as Book Across the Bay and Arnie's Burn.
Grigsburg.
Sorry. Yeah, so it's a piece to a very larger thing that's already been going on for years, kind of just a more organized approach, I think is how I understand what they're trying to do. So, a little background on that.
We have a consensus.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
yeah.
I told you, so we got to 2 at 500. And anything else on the other committees at this point?
Well, I think the only other committee that's really asking for money is the energy. And
Yeah, I would say, put it in there. I don't know how we're gonna pay for it, but it's the 60,000, right, for the match.
right, at least,
To help us get the grant that we did the money last time.
Yeah,
So we might not have.
right, assuming the grant program remains the same.
and I'd like to see us move forward on that project if we can get grant funding. And so if it requires us to put up 60,000, I think we should put that in, pencil that into the budget with everyone.
Yep.
Mhm.
So keep that in. We'll keep the comprehensive plan money in there for now for the potential startup of the Island Collaborative.
Yeah.
There's a carryover in the comprehensive plan steering the designated fund.
Funds.
Right, Michael, you. Anybody have anything else? Okay, next item. Change of time of regular town board meetings to 4:45. Do we have a motion to do that through until Memorial Day?
I'll make a motion to change regular town board meetings.
Yep.
To 4:45. May.
Second.
Through May. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are now at public comment B. Do we have any public comments? Okay, hearing none.
We adjourn.
To adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.
I don't know what happened to my pen. I left it on the top table.
Okay.
Yeah.